everybody, this is Jen from Garden Jen's Journey. I'm trying something new today. We'll see how it turns out. I'm making a video on making soap today. And I'm making a black and white soap. This is what it looks like. It's black and white, obviously. It has, what makes it black is I use activated charcoal, which is a very good addition. It helps with pulling toxins and things out of your body and some other good qualities. Google or Bing or whatever you use for your search engines, activated charcoal, and you can see what the properties are of that. But anyways, it also gives the soap the nice dark color. And then I use titanium dioxide, which helps give it the white color for the nice contrast. This is a batch that didn't turn out very well. It got too dry. I don't think the humidity in the air was quite right. But anyways, I'm still using it. I'm going to actually shred this up and use it in a different soap. But anyways, I had a friend request that I try an addition to the black and white soap because I already have the charcoal. She wanted me to try adding baking soda as the opposite, you know, adding it to my white side, because baking soda has a lot of great purposes as well when it comes to cleaning and deodorizing and other things like that. So that's what I'm doing today, is I'm doing a test batch to see if it'll work. Baking soda is a chemical in itself, so I'm not sure if it's going to actually react with the lye and things like that. So we're doing a test and we're going to see. So right now what I have done is I have my lye water here. This is my lye water. I've already added the water and then added the lye to it. This is very warm. And I have it sitting on a hot pad over there so it doesn't melt my plastic, because it does get very warm. I've taken my little thermometer here, and I'll see if I can get to focus in on the camera. I'm not sure. So let it read here. So anyways, it's 138 right now. I have gotten readings of this lye mixture that's been about 180 degrees. So this does get very warm, and so I leave it sit on a hot pad for a while until it cools down. And then in this bowl here, I have my oils. I use coconut and olive oil. Occasionally I'll use shea butter and cocoa butter. But for now, this batch is just made with olive oil and coconut oil. And so I've already melted them and measured them using my handy dandy kitchen scale. And this is a digital kitchen scale. I really like it. It's taken a lot of wear and tear. As you can see, it's gotten some of the paint eaten off from the lye and things. But anyways, this has become invaluable to me. So what I have, because I have to wait for the lye to cool down to about 115, 120 degrees, and then I'll mix it with the oils. You don't want the lye too hot, and the difference between the oils and the lye to be too great. Otherwise your batch won't turn out right. So while I'm waiting for the lye to cool down, I've mixed up my colors, and I put the black in here with a little bit of the oil, and then I have my titanium dioxide in here. Now it doesn't look like much right now, but when it gets mixed in and it starts curing, it will actually turn white. So I'm going to go ahead and mix those. Oh, there it is. Sometimes it's handy to have spatulas that come apart because you can clean them a lot better, and sometimes it's just a pain because they come apart when you don't want them to. So just mixing this into a paste form. The charcoal is very dusty, and so you have to be careful when you're mixing it that you're not flinging it all over the air. It has to be carefully mixed in so it becomes one with the base of whatever you're mixing it in. And then mixing the titanium dioxide here. And then what I'm going to use is a mold, and I'll show you one that I've made. It's not the one I'm going to use at the moment, but I just make simple molds. You can find more expensive ones on places like brambleberry.com, essentialdepot.com, and I love those sites, and don't get me wrong, they're great, and if you can afford the tools there, please, by all means, go ahead and purchase them. But if you can't and you really want to get started with soap making, this is what I did. This is just plastic acetate. I believe that's how it's pronounced, acetate. It's the stuff that signboards are made out of, and you can find this in craft stores. They come in sheets. But anyways, I just measured out my different measurements based on the measurements of most generalized soap molds. This is a 3.5 inch wide bar of soap, and I generally put in a 3-pound batch of soap, and so I get about 2.5 inch tall bar of soap in this mold. So I just made this mold, and then I line it with freezer paper, and I don't have, oh here it is, freezer paper, and you will find this in most of your big box stores. It'll be in I'm trying to think of where they have it, like where your trash bags and Ziploc bags and things like that. This is usually a bottom shelf item, is freezer paper. And I use that to line my molds. So when the soap comes out, it's easily taken off the liner. It doesn't get stuck into the mold. And it makes it for easy removal. And then you're not tearing apart your soap if your soap didn't set quite right, because you can peel just a little bit back of that freezer paper, and if you find that it's still not cured, you can leave it alone and let it set up for another little while. Generally, I let my soaps cure for about 24 hours, and then I'll see if I can start cutting them. And if they're not ready, I'll let them set for another 24 hours or so. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to line the mold that I'm going to use. I made a new mold yesterday for some tall, skinny soaps. And those are really popular because you can do a lot of cool things to the top and really make the design different. So this is another mold that I made. This one actually got made out of a yard sign. Waste not, want not. So I took an old yard sign, and it was a perfect size for this. So now I'm going to go ahead and line it with my freezer paper. A trick that I found to doing this was from another YouTuber. Put that here. As you take your mold, you kind of eyeball how much paper you need to pull out by how much this extends down, and it's going to cover the bottom. You need a little bit more. Okay. Alright, and then the shiny side is the side that you want the soap actually on, because this is what releases the soap. So we're going to take the shiny side and put it face down onto the mold, onto the open part of the mold. Kind of center it on there. Let me move this bowl out of the way. Kind of center it on there so you know that all parts will be covered by the paper. And then you're going to make an impression in the paper where the mold is. And you just take your fingers and round it along the edges here. Okay. And so now you see I have, hopefully you can see it on the camera, I have an impression of what the shape of the mold is and the size and everything. We're going to take that. Try not to drop things here. And the way I like to do this is I'll fold up the long side first and try to go to where that inward impression was, because you're going to see both the outside and the inside. Get the long side done. on and run your fingernail along it so it makes a beautiful crease. Okay. And then what I like to do next is I like to make sure that I'm actually going to get a square corner. My sides are going to be parallel. Is I'll take the short side next and I'll fold it up to where I see the next impression mark on the side, and I'll match my crease with itself. That way I know I'm folding in a straight line and it's not getting all skewed. I found this trick to be very useful because when you start folding things and you're kind of ballparking it, things can easily get off skewed. Now take the other short side, do the same thing. Fold it in, pull that one back out. And I also like to go on the error of folding in a little too much instead of not enough. Because it's a pain to try to correct the liner if you make it too big and it doesn't fit into your mold. So I always err on making it just a little too small. And then lastly, take up this last side here, and again I match my creases here, both the short sides where their creases are, I line it up. That way I know that my long sides will be parallel to each other and I'll have square corners. Alright. The next what we're going to do is we're going to trim this. I'm going to trim the long sides all the way in to where that crease is, that long crease. I'm going to do that on both sides. Eyeball it. I go about 2 or 3 inches on this flap here out, and I cut off this extra. This extra flap that I'm leaving on will wrap around this piece when it's folded up to make a sealed corner. Again, I'm just eyeballing it. This doesn't need to be perfect. Okay. Alright. Now the truth comes out, if this fits or not. Take our mold, take our paper, take our long sides first, pull them up, and then pull in the short sides. And slide them all down in here, like so. And just gently work it with your hands down in there. Alright, so we have it in there. And then what I'll do is I cut the short sides right along the top of the form here. Right again to the crease, just cut it right to the crease. Do it on both sides. Just to the crease. Okay. Then we're going to take this and we're going to fold it down. Make sure that your paper stays in the bottom of the form there. And we'll cut off some of the extra because it's too long. Like so. Then take some tape. I generally use Scotch tape, but I ran out, so masking tape will work. I'm going to tape that down. Same with this side. Pull that down there. Cut off the extra. Seems like a little bit more work, but it's actually not. It's real easy to trim off excess. Okay. And then the long sides, just fold them on over. Again, make sure that it's staying in the bottom there, because if you pull too hard, you will pull this back out of the form, and then it's not going to give you that full bar of soap. Just tuck in these flaps here. Nothing too fancy, just tuck them in, and it just helps keep everything from getting too messy, because soap making can be quite messy. Alright, so that's my form, all ready to go. And we'll check on the temperature of the lye water. And you can tell I'm not wearing gloves right now. It's because I've done this so often that I'm quite careful with how I handle this. I will be putting gloves on in a minute when I go to mix this all, but right now, since I'm not sloshing it and moving it about, I feel confident about not using gloves. But by all means, do what you feel safe doing. Wear gloves if you'd like. That is the best way to go. I said I just don't right now until I actually start sloshing this around. Okay, we're still sitting at about 133, a little bit too hot still. So I'm going to let this sit for a few more, probably maybe half an hour or so, and I'll be perfectly fine sitting up here. It's not going to get bumped around, and we'll come back and check on it, and then we'll see what the temperature is like and if we can start mixing our ingredients. So I'll see you back in a little while. Okay everybody, we are back. I just checked on my lye water to see if it's cool enough to use yet, and I'll show you what we have so far. So my lye water has cooled down quite a bit. We're sitting at about 114, 115, and that's doable. So that's okay. And then it's a cool day here. So while the lye water's been cooling down, so has my oils a little bit. And you want them to be about the same temperature for the best results. So I actually popped this in the microwave for about a minute to get my oils up to temperature. And you can see it's relatively about the same. They're going to be off by a few degrees, but that's a lot better than being off by 20-30 degrees. So now that they're both about the same temperature, I'm going to go ahead and put on my gloves, and we're going to get this mixed up. Okay, so the best thing to do is, I usually have another spatula, but apparently I did not save it. anyways, is you pour the lye mixture into the oils by pouring it on your spatula so it doesn't splash, and it also helps prevent excess air bubbles. You don't want bubbles in your soap. It doesn't look right, and it just doesn't cure very well when there's a lot of bubbles. So we try to keep the bubbles to a minimum. So there's the lye is now in with the oils. We're going to mix it just a little bit here to kind of incorporate it. And then I have a stick blender here that I use. It's Soaper's favorite tool. Otherwise you would have to hand whisk this, and it takes a long time to do. So I'm just going to stick blend this a little bit till it starts coming to trace, which means it starts to thicken up. It looks more like gravy than like oil. So we're going to go ahead and start mixing. Now this is spreading and sputtering a little bit because this is a smaller batch. It's a test batch. Usually my batch, my oils would be a lot higher on the bowl, so it wouldn't be spitting and sputtering. You see the oils changed the color a little bit as it's starting to emulsify, and it's a little bit thicker. Now it hasn't quite come to trace yet, but what I want to do is I want to get it mixed in with the colors and get that blended. And so I don't over blend it and get it too thick. I'm going to do that now while it's still quite thin. Oops. So I'm going to pour half into each container, half into the white, and half into the black. And again, I just eyeball this. I'm not a perfectionist by any means. Alright. Alright, and then we're going to take this and gently mix it in. You always start with the spatula first to get it mixed, and then use the power tool, so to speak. We're going to get the white done. You see the color that it is now. Still kind of a, whoops, kind of a yellow, kind of a beige. It's starting to get thicker. You see the difference? It's starting to get like gravy. That cord's right in your way. See the difference of the color now? Then we're going to do the same thing with the black. Napkins are another Soaper's friend. Easy cleanup. Alright. Alright, just about there. You don't want it too thick, otherwise it's not going to pour right, depending on the style that you're doing as far as your pattern. Alright. And then for my friend, I told her that I would try this, so here we go. I'm going to put my black over here. This is baking soda. I'm going to add this to the white. And hopefully this won't react with the lye and not set up. I don't know. This is the first time we're doing this. So I'm just going to mix this in by hand. I don't want to overuse the immersion blender because I don't want it getting too thick. So I'm just going to mix it in by hand. Alright. Okay. I think I'm going to give it one more shot with the immersion blender, so I'm going to wipe the black off. I don't want the black in with the white. Not yet anyway. So, get most of it off. Good. Okay, you have to be careful when doing this because if you splash this up into your face, you will get burned because this is raw live, raw soap. It hasn't cured, so it will burn you. So do be careful. I can get some more of this mess out of here. Alright, so I have the white with the baking soda in it. And then this is the black with the charcoal in it. And you can see it's quite thick, but not too thick yet. Alright, we're going to use my tall skinny mold here, and I'm going to pour this the same way that I've poured my last batch because I really liked it. I'm going to do this on a tilt. And so I'm going to take my bar of soap and just make it where this is tilted a little bit, like so. Will stay. Move it back a little bit more so you guys can see. You gotta constantly keep your colors mixed as you go. Otherwise they might start separating, might start racing, which means that they start turning a funky texture. So we're gonna add the white first. Just pour it along the bottom here, or the side. And it goes into the bottom. And then we're going to do the same with the black. And I might have used a little too much charcoal. I'm not sure. It's acting really chunky. So, follow with the black. Let's see if I can show you what it looks like. Okay. Then we're going to continue with the white. And the black. And we're just going to go back and forth. Alternating our colors here. It makes a really cool marbled effect. What we got so far. And I'm not very artistic when it comes to my hands. I don't have that talent. I have poor fine motor skills. But when it comes to things like soap, that all you have to do to be artistic is pour it a different way, or maybe do a little swirl or something in the top with a chopstick. That I can do. So doing the soap is kind of my way of being creative, and it helps benefit others as well. Okay, so that's what it looks like so far. You can't really see the lines much anymore, but we're going to go ahead and write this up gently. I'm going to tap this, and what tapping does is it gets the air bubbles out. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and put in the rest of the white here. And sprinkle along the top. And take the black and follow suit. Alright. Okay. And if I can show you. Oh. See if I can bring you in and show you. That's what it looks like. I'm going to take this spoon because I actually forgot my chopstick. I'm just going to make some swirls. And swirls are pretty easy. I mean, you just draw circles. So. Okay. And then draw a line around the perimeter of your soap, and it starts pulling those swirls in the direction that you're pulling the soap. Alright, so it's a little black right now. Again, I'll show you the picture. You can see the swirls there. So that's what this batch of soap looks like. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to let it sit here for, probably 3 or 4 hours before I move it. Oh, I forgot, there's a new thing that I've seen a lot of soapers do. So I'm going to try it as well. You spray the soap, the top of the soap, with some alcohol, and it helps keep the soap from giving soda ash. When it dries out too quickly, it separates a little bit. So I'm going to make sure that my spray is working, and then just give it a couple spritzes. And then another trick that I found, you find all these things either from watching other people or from just doing them yourself, is to take some cellophane and cover the top as well. And this helps prevent it from evaporating too quick. And also, because I do have animals in the home, there is hair and other things that fly in the air, so this also helps keep that out of the soap as well. So I'm just going to let this sit for a couple hours, let it sit up, and then once it starts setting up and it's a little bit firmer, I will go ahead and move this to a more secure area and kind of clean up the table. But because this is so young and very fragile in its state, we're just going to let it sit right here. When I go get ready to unmold this and cut it, I will do another video so we can see if this actually turned out. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. See you soon.